Hello and welcome live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Gautam Roy. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Israel's defense minister issues a final warning for Gaza city residents to flee south as the Hamas weighs US President Donald Trump's plan to end nearly 2 years of conflict. Ethiopia's state media says the death toll in a makeshift scaffolding collapse at a church in Arerte town has climbed to 36. At least 200 are also hurt. No signs of any breakthrough yet in the deadlock between Republicans and the Democrats, which has forced the US federal government into a shutdown after almost 7 years since Monday midnight. And mobile and data networks return in several provinces across Afghanistan, including capital Kabul on Wednesday, 48 hours after the Taliban authorities shut down all telecom services. Now, as Israel awaits Hamas's response to US-backed ceasefire proposal, Defense Minister Israel Katz said on Wednesday that the IDF is close to fully encircling Gaza city, having seized the western Netzarim corridor to sever the north from the south. The Israeli military also closed the Rashid coastal road to northbound movement, urging civilians to flee south while the route remains open in that direction. Heavy bombing struck Gaza city as Palestinians fled, responding to new evacuation orders. The IDF said those remaining in the city would be considered supporters of terror and warned this is the last opportunity to evacuate. Fresh hurdles have emerged from Washington's Gaza peace blueprint as the Hamas is pushing back against key terms in US President Donald Trump's plan. In talks with Turkish, Egyptian and Qatari officials in Doha, Hamas's negotiators have sought changes to clauses on disarmament and expulsion of cadres. The Trump plan, backed by Israeli PM Netanyahu, calls for a ceasefire, hostage releases, Hamas's disarmament and phased Israeli withdrawal. Hamas demands international guarantees for a full Israeli pullout and an end to targeted assassinations. European Union leaders gathered in Denmark on Wednesday for the Copenhagen Competitiveness Summit. Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen is hosting EU Chief Ursula von der Leyen, French President Emmanuel Macron, Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk and top executives from 28 of Europe's largest companies. The summit is focusing on strengthening Europe's common defense and scaling up production with the help of industry. It's also the first opportunity for the leaders to debate a proposal to use Russian assets frozen in Europe to fund a loan of 140 billion euros for Ukraine.
And I'm waiting very much European Commission proposal for using Russian immobilized assets for aid to Ukraine. We have been asking for quite a long time to use those immobilized assets for Ukraine, but now Commission has a proposal and we really need to see what's in details.
Europe and Europe's answer must be to ramp up different capabilities, air defense, drones and so on, by joint funding and joint procurement. Second one is that Russia's provocations and this kind of engagement won't weaken our support to Ukraine. Ukraine needs more in weaponry, assistance and money, and also we should use Russian frozen assets as much as possible for that.
On the other hand, the Kremlin has warned European leaders that any theft of Russian assets will have serious consequences, saying it will pursue those responsible.
We have already responded to these processes repeatedly at various levels. We are talking about plans to illegally confiscate. In Russian, we call that simply theft. If someone wants to steal our property, our assets, misappropriate them, and profit from these assets, then of course, first of all, those involved will be prosecuted in one way or another. They will all be held accountable. Not only these individuals, but also the countries that make the relevant decisions. Of course, This cannot go unanswered.
And the Kremlin has also dismissed Ukraine's accusations of shelling at a Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant as foolish, insisting Moscow, which controls the facility, is ensuring its safety. Kremlin spokesperson Peskov said Russian forces are safeguarding the site amid repeated attacks he blamed on Ukraine, while Kyiv accuses Moscow of carrying out the shelling.
It is under our control, which is why the Russian side is ensuring safety of this plant. At the same time, everybody knows it is not a secret to anybody that the plant and its infrastructure come under constant fire from the Kyiv regime. As you can understand, it is to say the least silly to accuse Russia of bombing a station that it is controlling.
Earlier, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky had expressed alarm over the situation, saying that Russian shelling is preventing restoration of the power line. The Soviet-era plant has relied on emergency diesel generators for a 9th consecutive day after an external power line was cut. At least 36 people have been killed and 200 injured after a makeshift scaffolding collapsed at a church in Areti town, about 70 kilometers east of Ethiopia's capital, Addis Ababa, on Wednesday. The state media, Ethiopia Broadcasting Corporation, said many pilgrims were among the victims and more people are feared trapped under the debris. Rescue efforts are ongoing. State-run mobile services resumed in southern Afghanistan and capital Kabul on Wednesday following a 2-day nationwide blackout of internet and mobile networks. Connectivity was disrupted in phases starting Monday. Authorities have not provided an official explanation, but recent actions by the Taliban, such as cutting fiber optic links over concerns about online pornography and morality, have raised speculation about censorship-driven shutdowns. Services are gradually returning across several provinces. There are also reports of people coming out of the streets of Kabul and celebrating with joy. Now, Syria is set to form its first parliament since the fall of Bashar al-Assad, with elections for the 210-member People's Assembly scheduled for the 5th of this month. However, concerns are growing over the legitimacy and inclusivity of the process under President Ahmad al-Sharaa. 2/3 of the assembly will be chosen by electoral colleges selected by regional committees, while Sharaa will appoint the remaining third. Authorities say the indirect system was chosen over universal suffrage due to a lack of reliable population data and widespread displacement after years of civil war. Minority communities, including Kurds, Druze and Alawites, have voiced deep skepticism. Critics argue the process resembles an appointment rather than a democratic exercise. Hospitals on the Philippine island of Cebu have been overwhelmed after a magnitude 6.9 earthquake hit the region. At least 69 people have been killed, 150 injured after a powerful quake in the Philippines, marking one of the country's most devastating disasters this year. Some of the injured are being treated on beds on the driveway of the Cebu Provincial Hospital in Bogo. They had to be wheeled out of the building amid fears of further aftershocks. And the Philippine Coast Guard on Wednesday said that it was sending additional aid to help the victims of the quake. The Coast Guard ship that departed Manila carried medical doctors, nurses and other personnel equipped for an emergency response and would be deployed in the affected areas. Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. assured survivors of swift assistance, with cabinet secretaries on the ground directing relief operations. Also, search and rescue operations are underway amid power outages and damaged buildings. And Prime Minister Modi has expressed deep grief over the loss of lives and the widespread damage caused by the earthquake in the Philippines. Taking to social media platform X, the PM wrote, "Deeply saddened to learn about the loss of lives and widespread damage caused by the earthquake in the Philippines. My thoughts and prayers are with the bereaved families. I wish the injured a speedy recovery. India stands in solidarity with the Philippines at this difficult time." Today marks a new chapter in India's foreign policy as well as in business. The much-awaited free trade agreement between India and the four-nation European bloc, EFTA, has come into force. The deal, signed last year, promises major investment, job creation and greater market access. DD India's Akhilesh Suman has the details.
The Trade and Economic Partnership Agreement, TIPA, with the European Free Trade Associations is a landmark in India's global outreach. Signed on March 10, 2024, it comes into effect after 16 years and 21 rounds of negotiations. At its core is US $100 billion investment pledge over 15 years, projected to create over 1 million jobs in India. The pact opens new opportunities for Indian farmer, gems and jewelry, textiles, machinery, and IT services.
Trade and Economic Partnership Agreement with the EFTA countries is a comprehensive agreement which covers not just trade in goods and services, but also intellectual property rights, competition, and also government procurement. EFTA countries are important trade and economic partners of India. They had invested about 12 billion in the Indian market, and Norway's pension fund also separately invested about 25 billion in the Indian market. Since these countries are also very much part of the European Economic Area, so overall, this is an important agreement for both for the European countries and also for India.
To safeguard domestic interests, India has kept dairy, farm products, and gold outside the purview of this agreement, but Indian exporters will gain new tariff advantages in EFTA markets.
Out of these 4 countries, Switzerland, Iceland, Liechtenstein, and Norway, Switzerland is the biggest trading partner to India among those 4, and I think it will definitely benefit Indians and the Swiss, because it will ease imports of certain goods. In general, I think this agreement is probably, especially if you look at the other free trade agreement with the European Union, it's of psychological importance because it's good that these 4 countries now managed to make a deal, because we all know that for a very long time India and the EU were not able to come to a conclusion.
The agreement is also historic. It includes a sustainability clause, binding both sides to uphold labor rights and environmental standards. Bilateral trade is now projected to rise to US $55 to 60 billion annually. With new tariff schedules in place, ports and airports are fast-tracking consignments, giving exporters an early edge under the new regime.
The implementation of free trade agreement between India and 4 European nations, Norway, Switzerland, Iceland and Liechtenstein, sets a template how cooperation can be established between countries who think alike, and set the ball rolling for other countries too. It can be a model for cooperation. Akhilesh Suman for DD India in Delhi.
And still to come in this edition of DD India Live. India's cabinet clears some festive season cheer for central government employees and pensioners. And Yannick Sinner clinches his 21st title of his career, wins China Open final, beating American teenager Lerna Tien.
This week on Defence Dynamics, from the rails of India's heartland, Agni Prime raises, carrying a nuclear edge on the move. As the nation strengthens its shield with Anant Shastra QR SAM regiments, a new layer of defence takes shape. With the Kaveri D1 engine igniting India's aerospace dreams, the future of power is truly homegrown. This Wednesday at 8 p.m. only on DD India.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the Economic Brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Gautam Roy. The US government shut down much of its operations as deep partisan divisions prevented the Congress and the White House from reaching a funding deal. The shutdown began hours after the Senate rejected a short-term spending measure which would have kept government operations afloat through to the 21st of November. There was no clear path out of the impasse, while agencies warned that the 15th government shutdown since 1981 would halt the release of a closely watched September employment report, slow air travel, suspend scientific research, withhold pay from US troops, and lead to the furlough of 750,000 federal workers at a daily cost of $400 million.
Now, with that being said, we can do things during the shutdown that are irreversible, that are bad for them and irreversible by them, like cutting vast numbers of people out, cutting things that they like, cutting programs that they like. And you all know Russell Vogt. He's become very popular recently because he can trim the budget to a level that you couldn't do any other way. So they're taking a risk by having a shutdown because of the shutdown, we can do things medically and other ways, including benefits. We can cut large numbers of people out. We don't want to do that, but we don't want fraud, waste, and abuse.
Why do we care so much about them negotiating with us? It's not a point of pride. It's because Americans are hurting with higher costs throughout the country. Some of it's tariffs, some of it's energy costs, some of it's food costs. But one of the main reasons, and the one with the most immediate impact on raising Americans' costs, is skyrocketing costs of health care, all done by the Republicans.
The 11th World Green Economy Summit opened in Dubai on Wednesday, drawing over 3,300 participants from 30-plus countries under the theme Innovating for Impact. The summit spotlights technology, finance, policy reforms and youth engagement as drivers of a sustainable future. With nearly 80 global speakers, discussions focus on renewable energy, circular economies and equity alongside key initiatives like the Arab Regional Climate Commitment and the Global Alliance on Green Economies 2024-2025 portfolio. In conversation with DD India, Mohammed bin Sulaiman, CEO of Dubai Electricity and Water Authority's Moro Hub, provided his take on the World Green Economy Summit and its significance.
So the focus nowadays in the UAE and also in the globe is on the AI, how AI can be leveraged to ease life of people, also protect the environment. We all know that with the acceleration of adoption of AI, there are negative signs as well because AI consumes a lot of power. However, what we are focusing here in the UAE, how we can leverage use cases, how we can leverage AI in use cases where we save energy, where we have positive use cases that can contribute to the good of humans and also the environment.
India's Union Cabinet, chaired by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, has cleared key decisions to provide relief and boost self-reliance. The Cabinet approved an additional 3% hike in DNS allowance for central government employees and DNS relief for pensioners effective from the 1st of July this year. This revision will benefit nearly 11.8 million employees and pensioners.
हमारे सभी केंद्रीय कर्मचारियों को, पेंशनर्स को बधाई। आज से 1/7/2025 से डीए और डीएनएस रिलीफ 58% हो जाएगा, यानी 3% बढ़ा। बहुत ही बड़ी अच्छी बढ़ोतरी है ये, और करीब करीब 49 लाख एम्प्लॉयज़ और 69 लाख पेंशनर्स को इसका सीधा लाभ मिलेगा।
And in another major step, the Cabinet approved the Mission for Self-Reliance in Pulses, a 6-year program with an outlay of 11,440 crore Indian rupees. The initiative aims to strengthen domestic production and achieve self-sufficiency in pulses by 2031.
आज 11,440 करोड़ रुपीस के आउटले के साथ आत्मनिर्भर बनना पल्सेस में ये एक नया मिशन चालू किया जा रहा है। 6 साल के इस मिशन में कई सारे नए इनिशिएटिव लिए जाएंगे जिसके बारे में मैं आपको डिटेल में आगे बताता हूँ। सबसे पहले प्रोडक्टिविटी बढ़ाना, पल्सेस का बेटर सीड लेना, बेटर क्वालिटी के सीड, बेटर क्वालिटी के सीड में भी बेटर प्रोटीन की क्वांटिटी कैसे हो वो भी ध्यान देना। ऐसा करके जो ग्लोबल बेस्ट बेंचमार्क्स हैं उनके साथ कंपेयर करके प्रोडक्टिविटी बढ़ाना।
Prime Minister Modi on Wednesday participated in the centenary celebrations of the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh in New Delhi. On this occasion, the PM released a specially designed commemorative postage stamp and coin highlighting the RSS's contributions to the nation. The centenary celebrations not only honor the historical achievements of the RSS, but also highlight its enduring contributions to India's cultural journey and its message of national unity. Addressing a gathering on the occasion, the PM praised the unwavering faith of individuals rooted in social integration and constitutional values. He also said that the establishment of the RSS 100 years ago is not just a coincidence, but a revival of a tradition which has endured for thousands of years.
100 वर्ष पूर्व राष्ट्रीय स्वयंसेवक संघ की स्थापना ये कोई संयोग नहीं था। ये हजारों वर्षों से चली आ रही उस परंपरा का पुनरुत्थान था, जिसमें राष्ट्र चेतना समय समय पर उस युग की चुनौतियों का सामना करने के लिए नए नए अवतारों में प्रकट होती है। इस युग में संघ उसी अनादि राष्ट्र चेतना का पुण्य अवतार है।
Now, after urging people to join PM Modi's call for Swadeshi by adopting indigenous products and services, Union Minister for Electronics and Information and Technology, as well as Information Broadcasting, Ashwini Vaishnav, has switched to Zoho, a homegrown software suite for documents, spreadsheets and presentations. Zoho Show is a free online presentation software that lets you create, collaborate, publish and broadcast presentations from any device quickly and easily. Time now for some sporting updates. Sri Lanka and India are set to co-host the first Women's T20 Blind Cricket World Cup in November. The event is scheduled to start on the 11th of November in New Delhi and will conclude on the 23rd of November in Colombo with the final. Teams from 7 countries including Australia, England, India, Nepal, Pakistan, Sri Lanka and the US will be competing in the tournament. An announcement was made about this event in Colombo in the presence of Sri Lanka's Sports Minister Sunil Kumar Gamage, leaders of the Sri Lanka Cricket Association for the Visually Handicapped and representatives from the Cricket Association for the Blind in India.
They're conducting first Women World T20 Cup with 7 nations. Yet blind cricket holds a very special place in our hearts. It's a shining example of determination, resilience, and extraordinary talent.
Yannick Sinner has clinched the 21st title of his career by thrashing American teenager Lerna Tien 6-2, 6-2 in the China Open final on Wednesday. The Italian lifted the trophy for the second time on Beijing's hard courts, having done so in 2023. Sinner's only ever loss in Beijing has been to rival and top-ranked Carlos Alcaraz, who won last year's final. Sinner is the third man to win multiple China Open titles, matching Rafael Nadal's record of 2, but well short of Novak Djokovic's 6 crowns. He may now be able to snatch back the top ranking before the season ends, after Alcaraz pulled out of the Shanghai Masters, where Sinner is the defending champion. And that's all we have for this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. And for those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India's mobile app. It's available on both Android and iOS. Just scan the QR code and download the app right away. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Gautam Roy, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.